Hello, my name is Siri Turgeson, Professor of Management and Entrepreneurship at Florida Atlantic University and the Norwegian School of Economics. Welcome to Fundamentals of Responsible Leadership for Entrepreneurs. This lesson is entitled Basic Principles of Ethical Business Leadership. In this lesson, we will review the two standard theories of ethics for business and entrepreneurs. We will examine why ethics is a necessary skill for leadership. We will consider how entrepreneurs must be prepared to face unintended consequences, and we will look at recommendations for entrepreneurs when faced with difficult situations, along with questions they should ask themselves to develop an ethical philosophy. Entrepreneurs are typically involved in a broad set of activities in their ventures and must make decisions based on sound business ethics. These challenges are especially relevant in countries that have less developed institutions, for example, operating in markets with a high level of corruption. While there are certainly many good books, websites, and other resources that discuss ethics, there is no guidance on every single situation that an entrepreneur will face in the course of starting and growing his or her venture. There are, however, some overall guidelines that entrepreneurs can follow to maintain transparency and good governance in their operations. There are two primary standard theories of ethics, shareholder theory and stakeholder theory. According to shareholder theory, a manager's primary duty is to maximize shareholder returns. As Nobel laureate economist Milton Friedman once wrote, "There is one and only one social responsibility of business, to use its resources and engage in activities designed to increase its profits, so long as it engages in open and free competition without deception or fraud." Stakeholder theory broadens the accountability to multiple constituents, such as employees, suppliers, customers, partners, and communities. According to this model, relevant stakeholders should be identified and then determine the conditions under which their stakes are most important. Certainly, entrepreneurs value their autonomy, but they realize that they require many stakeholders in order to be successful. Entrepreneurs will need to actively cultivate these relationships and build a culture of trust. Ed Freeman, editor of the Journal of Business Ethics, has argued that too many executives adopt the separation thesis in that business is separate from ethics, but in fact the two go hand in hand. Ethics is more than just good behavior. It's a necessary skill for leadership. Entrepreneurs need to be able to recognize potential dilemmas, consider the nature of their challenges, and move forward. Dealing successfully with ethical issues will also impact an entrepreneur's personal well-being because the decisions made in the workplace spill over into personal life too. One way to plan for and guard against ethical pitfalls is to develop a code of conduct. This code of conduct is your policy statement, which outlines the values and behavior that you expect from everyone you deal with: employees, suppliers, customers, partners, and communities. One example of an entrepreneurial firm's code of conduct begins by stating that everything we do in connection with our work will be and should be measured against the highest possible standards of ethical business conduct. This code of conduct also acknowledges that these ethical practices are critical for interacting with stakeholders. It continues, "Our commitment to the highest standards helps us hire great people, build great products, and attract loyal users. Respect for our users, for the opportunity, and for each other are foundational to our success and are something we need to support every day." In addition to core stakeholders on the supply and demand side of their businesses, other stakeholders include non-governmental organizations, industry, and labor associations. Entrepreneurs need to be able to communicate with these parties in repeated interactions. As Brad Agel and colleagues discuss in their book, The Business Ethics Field Guide, it's a basic moral principle to live up to one's promises. But there are two key truths. First, breaking some promises will be necessary in order to live a moral life. And second, people remember when and under what circumstances promises were fulfilled or broken. But if you have a history of ethical leadership based on your code of conduct, you will find that recovering from these truths can be less catastrophic for your business. Generally, entrepreneurship is extremely positive for society, leading to job creation, reduced unemployment levels, increased competition and productivity, decreased poverty, and often opening up new markets and generating foreign income. But certainly any business activity, including entrepreneurship, can potentially result in adverse impacts, some of which can be anticipated. As an example, in certain product and service industries, there may be a fairly static demand. That is a constant demand regardless of changes in the supply. One illustration would be the demand for an ice cream shop. A town might have one ice cream shop that is fairly busy, and the addition of a second ice cream shop located in proximity may not double demand for ice cream. Thus, it is reasonable to expect that when an entrepreneur decides to establish a business in a market segment with static demand, he or she may be taking away sales from established businesses in close proximity. So be prepared to explain why you are choosing a certain path for your enterprise if you anticipate that your decision may inadvertently create negative effects for others. It is important to acknowledge that there may also be unintended consequences from entrepreneurship. One example, referenced in the book Entrepreneurship: The Practice and Mindset by Neck, and Murray, is Tom's Shoes, a for-profit company that utilizes a buy one, give one business model, by which Tom's Shoes donates one pair of shoes for every pair of shoes it sells, giving away over 35 million shoes. This model has been criticized for treating the cause rather than, as one might say, teaching someone to fish. Certainly, there is then less of a market for individuals to set up their own shoe companies or to visit a local cobbler. Other researchers found that children who received the free shoes were 10% more likely to say that others should provide for the children's families, thus establishing a culture of dependency. In the Business Ethics Field Guide, the authors recommend 8 steps that can help you navigate and successfully survive ethical dilemmas. 1. Identify the important fact. Determine what you know and what other information you could quickly acquire in order to make a decision. 2. Identify the ethical issue. Determine the circumstances that require some moral intensity and articulate the values you want your decision to honor, and note how those values may compete. In other words, prioritize the issues, speak your values forcefully and clearly, and seek to resolve conflicts between the issues and your values. 3. Identify the relevant stakeholders. Determine what decision makers will be influenced by your action and which are most important to you and why, and what harm or benefit they may accrue from your decision. 4. Identify potential solutions. Outline all potential solutions and consider a combination of them, keeping in mind that doing nothing may also be an alternative. 5. Assess solutions using ethical perspectives. There are certainly many different time-honored principles of ethics that you can use as rationales for your decisions. You will likely not know how to resolve some things. Seek guidance from trusted sources who adhere to an ethical code of conduct. 6. Assess any new potential solutions. As you consider current perspective, you may generate some new alternatives. 7. Act in accordance with your ethical analysis. Do the thing you think is best, even if it is uncomfortable. And 8, assess your actions and the outcomes. Determine how you feel about the results. The authors also recommend these questions to ask with every ethical challenge. What are the core principles at stake? Am I protecting others' rights? Does my decision preserve others' dignity and ability to choose? Would I be willing to be the other party in the transaction? Will this decision be fair to all involved? Who will be affected by my decision? Who will benefit? Who will be harmed? Who am I? What kind of person would this action make me? And how would I feel if my reasoning and decision appeared on the news? Whether dealing with customers, suppliers, and partners, managing employees or communities, developing an ethical approach to entrepreneurship is critical to effective leadership and the success of your business. Reflecting on these issues will help you build a strong foundation for confronting the tough choices that you will inevitably face as you advance your business and your career. After you have reviewed all of the lessons in this course, you can test your knowledge and earn a certificate.